All right, everyone, so I have been working on carving my 2 tiles. I made sure I only went down a little bit into the clay, so not too deep, otherwise it gets too thin and it will break. I tried to use different angles on, this is the wire tool, I love the wire tool. I also used a little bit of a ribbon tool. I tried to clean up the edges up in here, just kind of getting them nice and neat. Same with the edges around here. Take your time and do a neat job. Do it nicely and try to think kind of about things going just below the surface. Some things you can build up, and as I was looking through this design, I decided that I was gonna build my people up out of clay. So I carved down the water design and then I'll build up the people. With my other design, let's see here. I decided that I was going to build up the barn. And notice I have my piece on one of these bats. You can use that as long as you have a paper towel underneath it. You can also use, we have these spinny wheels that you can use. And so then as you're working, you can kind of spin and work your piece that way. It just helps if you have it on a bat. All the little scraps of clay that you shave off, please make sure to get all of those on your board before you are done for the day, and they can go straight into the pug mill. Please clean up after yourself. That is a really big deal in here, and it is part of your Criterion C grade. So put those in the pug mill. Once you're done carving, notice I did both tiles at the same time. You're gonna decide some areas to build up. So I decided I wanna build it up the little cloud. I also wanted to build up some of the barn. So I have a little bit of clay here and I'm gonna keep it on my board. I got a little rolling pin out of the blue tools container. And I'm just gonna roll out a little bit of clay. When you add clay to your tile, you're going to need the score tool, and that's this little rake. Sometimes they look a little dirty, so clean them off. And then this is the slip. Now I'm gonna add some clay to build up my little cloud, so I'm gonna take a little slip and I am gonna do what we call scoring. Notice there's a little slip on there. The slip is the glue. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of clay. Actually, I might roll it into a sphere. I want my cloud to look kind of puffy. So I rolled a little sphere and then I flattened it like a little pancake. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of that slip and score it. And I'm gonna start attaching some of that clay to start making my cloud. If you don't score and you don't use slip, the clay pieces will stick when they're wet, but then when they're dry, they are gonna fall off. And then that's gonna affect your overall design, that's gonna affect your score for craftsmanship. So you have to make sure to score the area that you're going to attach on the back side and on the front side. Now I can blend these a little bit, kind of make it look a little bit more like my cloud. There we go. There's a little piece of clay in there I don't like. Right. This is that little Sgraffito tool. I can come in and I can carve a little bit. As I'm working, if I want, I can come in and kind of clean this edge a little bit. Take your time to make things well. Right? Do your very best work. So I'm gonna finish building up the cloud. I'm also gonna build up some of the roof of the barn. And so that's why I was rolling out this thin slab. I am going to, let's see if I can figure this out. I'm gonna build up some of my barn. Looks a little crooked. So notice I'm using a little clay knife. I don't know if you can see it down there. Ah, that looks pretty close. So then I'm gonna use some slip. I'm gonna score up the barn front. Make sure to get some slip in there. I'm gonna score the piece that I'm gonna attach. And the scoring really allows the clay to get into each other's grooves and stick more, right? So instead of they're like this, they're kind of hooked together so they don't fall off. And I'm gonna kind of wiggle it a little bit. Now there might be a few air bubbles trapped in here because I put it on top. So I'm gonna take a tool, a wood tool, and just kind of get it in the way I want it to look. It might not look the way you want it to right away, but don't get mad, don't give up. Just kind of keep working with it. All right, so I'm gonna come back and clean up the edges a little bit next to the fields. Gail's a stickler on doing things well. I told you that from right at the beginning. Do a good job on your work. Right, down here I gotta kind of clean up this edge a little bit. So use your tools. I'm not gonna carve the door in this yet because it's nice and soft. But once it is a little bit more leather hard, I'll come in and I'll carve the door. If I'm worried about an air pocket, I think it'll be all right. Sometimes we have to take a needle tool and poke it, but it should be okay. So hopefully this helps give you kind of a visual of what you're doing. The first, I would say probably 2 or 3 days are carving. So transfer your design, carve into the clay just a little below the surface, do it nice and neat. Work on them at the same time. And then once you have your carving done, you're gonna start building up some areas. That's called a relief tile. Some pop up, some pop down. And then the next video demo, we will talk about adding texture. Have fun.